What's going on, everyone? Crossplay in Warzone. Love it or hate it, it's an option that's there to stay, so I decided to put it to the test, just to see what kind of lobbies I got in with crossplay enabled versus when I had it disabled. Being a PS4 player, I'm not a fan of crossplay, simply because my friends were all playing on PS4 before this game came out. It doesn't really give me any benefits, and it has the huge drawback that I have to play with the PC Master Race, also known as the Hacker Race. Now, of course, not all PC players cheat, but let's face it, Warzone has a major problem right now with hackers, cheaters, aimbotters, whatever you want to call them, I don't care. Nobody likes playing with these guys, so just like a lot of you, I turned crossplay off. In addition to the hackers, you've also got a whole bunch of reasons why PC is just going to have an advantage over PS4. You've got higher frame rates, you've got better graphics, you've got all sorts of stuff going on. So that's really the main argument for turning off crossplay. If you disable crossplay, then you don't have to deal with any of that nonsense. And in theory, I thought this would give me better lobbies. In practice, it turns out I was wrong. I did a nice little science experiment, and I just wanted to share what I did as well as the results I got. And I'd also like to invite you guys to reproduce my experiment in order to find out if the results are consistent for you. I don't pay a whole ton of attention to my stats in Call of Duty anymore. Back in the day in Black Ops 2, COD Ghosts, Black Ops 3, those games, yeah, I paid more attention to my stats than I do now. But I noticed that my KD ratio in Warzone was just lower than it's ever been, and I don't think it's just because I was dying over and over and going to the gulag on purpose for the gulag video. By the way, annotation on the screen, link in the description for the gulag video if you want the best tips for how to win in the gulag. I went through and lost for about a week straight just so I could gather all the best tips for you guys in one video, along with loads of gameplay, so check that out after this video if you're interested. But getting back to the barracks and the combat record for Warzone, I noticed my KD was right around a 1.3, which is a whole lot lower than it normally is in Call of Duty games. Now, of course, with the skill-based matchmaking that's going on behind the scenes that Infinity Ward and Activision just refuse to acknowledge at all, you're definitely going to have a lower KD than usual, but this was a lot lower than my typical KD. And I don't really feel like it's an accurate depiction of where my skill is as a player. So, enough tooting my own horn here. I decided to set out and say, well, is disabling crossplay going to have any impact at all for me here? And I felt like every time I ran into an enemy, I would just get these huge lag spikes, and I'd put a whole bunch of shots into them, and they would just melt me in one bullet. And this didn't just happen once or twice, this happened quite a few times. I've also noticed that when I'm in these crossplay disabled lobbies, I'm more likely to just have my bullets go straight through enemies and have hit markers not even register, and all sorts of other strange connection issues like that. This kind of stuff is enough to drive anyone crazy, I'm no exception to that, so I really just wanted to answer the question, is there anything I can do on my side to improve the connections in Warzone? Turns out I found something very interesting. I opened up the web interface to my NETDUMA R1 router. It's got a feature on it called the GeoFilter, and the GeoFilter does quite a few things. First of all, you can tell it to deny connecting to any single server. You can also tell it to reject any server that's outside of a certain radius or with too high of a ping. But I wasn't using any of those features. The feature I was using was simply pinging the host server for the game that I was entering. The GeoFilter also shows you the approximate physical location of the server to which you are connecting. Warzone has servers all throughout the United States. We've got dedicated servers in New York, Illinois, Georgia, Virginia, Florida, Texas. I can't tell if that's Oklahoma or Kansas, but definitely one of those. We've also got servers in California, Washington, and Oregon. And with all of these servers and me being from the Midwest, you'd think I'd have a pretty solid connection to the game, but that's just not true. I've been put in these Oregon servers many times, and I just can't for the life of me understand it. So hopefully in today's video, I'll be able to shed some light on that kind of thing for you, because I think I might have solved the mystery. And without boring you guys with all of the details, I connected to several different games, both with crossplay enabled and with crossplay disabled. With crossplay disabled, early in the mornings on the weekends, I would frequently get connected to the servers up in Oregon, nearly 3,000 miles away from my home. I also frequently get put into the New York servers, which those are definitely better than the Oregon servers, but there is a noticeable difference when I'm playing in a New York server versus when I'm in an Illinois server. The NETDUMA GeoFilter reports the Illinois server ping at about 25 milliseconds for me, where the New York server is 40 milliseconds. The in-game pings seem to follow suit, with the in-game Warzone ping for the Illinois server at about 50 to 60 milliseconds, and the New York servers anywhere from 100 to 130 milliseconds. Why is it my router is pinging 25 and the game is reporting a ping of 60? I'll never know, but these in-game ping counters aren't very reliable. They will show you, however, if you're having a major problem such as packet loss or lag spikes, so they are good for that. Now, I didn't notice a big difference in the NETDUMA or in the in-game Warzone ping with crossplay enabled or disabled, but I did notice a huge difference in the experience when I was playing. Those lag spikes and jitters that I was talking about getting with crossplay disabled, well, most of those seemed to go away when I enabled crossplay. And I've got a theory as to why, so just stick around and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But in order to discuss that, what I need to cover first is I need to cover the matchmaking time. I also measured the amount of time that it took from when I started the search to when I was put into a lobby. I found that when crossplay was enabled, my search times were nearly half as when they were disabled. Likewise, the ping that the matchmaking algorithm showed me on the screen was almost half when I had enabled crossplay. With crossplay disabled, my average search time across about 6 or 7 searches on a Tuesday evening was 71 seconds. Right after I did that testing, I enabled crossplay and did several more lobby searches. The average amount of time that I had to wait to find a lobby with crossplay enabled was 41 seconds. The average ping that the matchmaking algorithm showed me was 150 milliseconds with crossplay disabled, and it was 84 milliseconds with crossplay enabled. Now, I don't pretend to be an expert on the Call of Duty matchmaking algorithm, but the way that the system works is it first looks for games with a very good connection for you. If it can't find those after a certain amount of time, it extends the search until it eventually finds a match. And I think what's happening is we have so many people with crossplay enabled, which, by the way, that's the default, so good job on that, Infinity Ward. We have so many people with crossplay enabled that we're having trouble filling lobbies for the crossplay disabled people. And because of that, if you play with crossplay disabled, even though you're avoiding the hackers and the aimbotters and the cheaters, you can't avoid the lag. And the game isn't going to advertise that it's lagging to you, but it's definitely lagging, and you can definitely feel a difference if you re-enable crossplay. It's also interesting to note that in my crossplay disabled lobbies, the fastest time I was able to find a match was 1 minute. And in my crossplay enabled lobbies, I only had one match that went over a minute. Most of the time I was able to find a match within about 40 seconds. So what I feel like is happening here, and I have absolutely no way of confirming this, but I feel like what happens is once the search algorithm gets to about 60 or 70 seconds, it just throws you into any server with an opening. Now, your ping for that server might look okay, it might look like it's 100 or 110, but you're going to end up having problems with lag because many of the players in that lobby are probably in the same situation as you, where they've also connected to a suboptimal server just because they don't want to play with aimbotters on PC. This is going to lead to a lot of inconsistent gunfights and a lot of rage. As the Call of Duty tips, tricks, and tactics guy, I feel like it's my job to give you at least a few tips, tricks, and tactics to help avoid this lag and win more games. So here's my top 5 list of things you can do to avoid lag in Warzone. Number 1, definitely re-enable crossplay if you've disabled it like me. Give it a shot. Tell me if you like it, leave it in the comments below. Just answer the following question. Do you feel like disabling crossplay in Call of Duty Warzone makes you lag more, or does it improve your connections? In addition to enabling crossplay, if you're lucky enough to have a NETDUMA router, go ahead and go to the geofilter, and you can either set up a geofilter, or you can just deny the servers that you feel give you a bad experience. Another thing you can do is keep an eye on the ping in the matchmaking, and if that ping goes above about 100, go ahead and back out and try to find a match again. That forces the algorithm to start over so that it doesn't expand your geographical search region by too much. And once you get into a game, go ahead and go to the Options menu, and just take about 5 or 10 seconds and check your connection to the server. If you notice that your ping remains relatively stable, then you're probably going to have a pretty good connection in the game, and I would definitely prefer having a higher, more stable ping over a low ping that spikes a lot, because that's where the lag spikes and that's where the frustration is going to come from. Another thing to look out for is this packet loss over here, and if you see any packet loss, get out of there. And one other tip, if you consistently see packet loss across several servers, check with your internet service provider to make sure that your equipment's okay. I recently had to swap out a cable modem because I was getting a whole lot of packet loss in just about every server. So I recommend just biting the bullet, just re-enabling crossplay so it stops bugging you about it every time you try to find a lobby, and just dealing with the occasional aimbotter. The developers of the game have come out multiple times and said that they are combating cheaters, so hopefully over time the anti-cheat technology can catch up with the hackers, and we can enjoy Call of Duty at least as much as possible with crossplay enabled. I'm putting together a best loadouts video that should be up on my channel pretty soon, so if you don't want to miss out on that, be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit like if you've enjoyed this video. And as always, thank you very much for watching.